Right, yeah, welcome on in. It is Geographically Challenged, episode number 87, the post-stage 3 pre-playoffs major stage episode of Elfishguy, Pilski, and Bleh. We finally managed to make it all together here for an episode during the major, which was the plan from the beginning, but hey, sometimes things get in the way. Now, obviously, it's been, again, a little bit of an up and down stage, but I almost want to say this stage has been the cleanest one so far. So let's talk about it, and then we'll talk about the MRQ cancellation as well. There's not a huge amount to touch on necessarily here, but before we do get into all of that conversation, of course, we have to give a quick shout out to SkinClub, who are still running the Pick'em Challenge over there on SkinClub, where you can put yourself up against myself and a couple of other creators and potentially win yourself some skins. Dragon Law is on the line for the best Pickemer. If you're only just joining now, you're probably a little bit too late to win the Dragon Law, just purely because you'd only be able to do the playoff stage from this point forward. But you can get involved on, the Pick'ems over there. And, maybe just remember this for the next major as well, because I'm sure they'll be doing one next major as well. So do encourage you to check that out. There is a link in the description. And shout out again to SkinClub for helping us out with this episode of Geographically Challenged. But fellas, let's get into the episode and let's discuss things. Major. Look, stage 3. Do you guys agree that this was the most standard or expected results-wise stage of the major? Because I feel like this one at least was the least crazy.
I think, yes, but also the first phase of games were kind of crazy, right? Like we had upsets galore. We had, I think it was only Spirit who looked pretty solid. Then we had like Furia beat Mongolz. We had like a Legacy break Vitality streak. So we did have those like crazy upsets, but overall in the end, I think like the usual suspects did survive. That being said, you have to point out Liquid going 0-3. I don't think anyone saw that happening, even though I didn't have them necessarily going through. Just the manner in which they, especially losing to Lynn Vision and Mongolz. I mean, Mongolz fair enough, but also the fashion in which they did, right? They only seem to wake up on the final map and the map which they won against Mouse. That's about it. But apart from that, I guess, yeah, sure. Everyone. Aurora,
yeah,
big disappointment for me.
Okay, I mean, I guess there was a couple of surprises. Where do we want to start here? I kind of had Vitality as the first place to start, just because I feel like that's the natural conversation point, given that that was the big storyline coming into this major. Are you guys a little bit disappointed? Because I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit disappointed the fact that we don't get Vitality with that win streak. They lose it in a BO1 on Inferno to Legacy. It was 13-3. Like, it was just like, ugh.
I will say this, just for the sake of really packed playoffs with them having lesser pressure, this is a good thing for Vitality, right? You get it out of the way. It's done with. Like, the streak's dead. I know for a lot of people, you wanted them to go for like, they won like three games. It would have been like 43-0. It'd been fantastic. That's great. By the way, they still have the best of 3 streak going, so it's okay. It's all fine. It's all good in the hood. But now the pressure's fucking off of them, right? Coming to the playoffs right now, they are more dangerous than they were, which is saying something considering how good they are. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I don't know though, Pilski. Like, if I'm gonna have an indictment of the format, the fact that best of ones are still in at the major, it's literally that moment right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a problem. It's always been like the biggest glaring problem with the major, and I think the main tournament that people kind of compared it to, at least historically, although I haven't heard that sentiment for a while, is like the international, right, where they play this very, very long kind of drawn out format in the past, at least, and it's very, what would you call it, like not effective, but like thorough at like not having too many easy games to win, and like making sure that everyone kind of plays everyone in a reasonable amount of games. So yeah, the best of ones have always been the biggest like question mark factor of the major. I know some people enjoy that because it does add some excitement, and I'm sure that the Brazilian fan base would have been up in arms when, a team like Legacy without very many expectations is able to take a big best of one win, especially in big fashion like that. In saying that though, my main 2 things that I think about it is, I'd say 3 is like, best of one upset. You don't put too much stock in that. The second thing being that every single map that they played after that, they have absolutely stomped their opponent, just to be able to pretty flawlessly go into the next stage of the major. And the last thing is, it's kind of a very big storyline in Valorant at the moment, actually, because Toronto is running consecutively to the major, which is an absolute fuckfest for me trying to keep up with all of the games. But the big storyline there, not only from from the domestic leagues, but also the international leagues from Valorant is that the people are really considering the fact that being seeded ahead in a tournament is actually a disadvantage right now. And the stat in Valorant is pretty ridiculous, where
I saw that.
teams that have big momentum in their favor and have come in from an earlier stage are winning the large majority of their games against teams that are seated ahead of them in the tournament, because they're so match fit, they have so much momentum, so much confidence, they're used to the tournament conditions. And I don't know exactly off the top of my head what the statistic is, but they are very, very few teams that are seated ahead in a tournament, whether it be a round ahead in the upper bracket or whether it be a whole stage ahead, that are winning their initial games. And I think that, you know, you can even see here in the CS major that the best team in the world is losing to a team that wasn't even supposed to be at the major in very, very one-sided fashion on a map that they you know, is one of their bread and butters. Like it's just a perfect example of one team is very match fit, they've got a lot of momentum behind them, and one team is feeling a little bit rusty on the day.
No, I saw that tweet. I think it was Tombiz, at least the tweet that I saw, and I thought, man, I almost want to reply to this one just from the CS perspective, because it's the exact same thing. Like, go down the list here, and it's like, it's so many teams. Like, what? Pain beats Spirit, Namiga beats Na'Vi, Legacy beats Vitality, Furia beats Mongolz, VP beats Mouse, 3D Max beats G2.
I think Spirit, apart from Spirit, everyone lost.
Faze beats Aurora. Like,
so I think even in Valorant, the thing is, like, the flip side of that discussion is prep, right? And also having more time to practice. And in Valorant, which is a bit more of a, I wouldn't say like a more tactical game, but it has more elements that you need to prepare for. And I think you need a more intensive coaching staff in that regard. And prep can be extremely important because, you know, you can have different compositional stuff, whereas CS, it's a bit more on the basic elements of like everyone is the same, right? So there's less of that prep factor in CS, I would even say. But the thing is that it's such a prevalent point, even in Valorant, where I would put more emphasis on prep and more emphasis on being able to anti-strat, at least compositionally, and be able to change things and catch people off guard. In the veto and with your agent comp, you have more of those elements. And even in that game, you're seeing such a huge win rate for teams that are more match fit and have played more recent officials, particularly within a certain tournament and particularly within certain conditions. So I think even in CS, that I would probably lean even more in the favor of teams that have that match fitness and have that momentum winning games. But also on the flip side of that discussion, you really have to consider whether that's, wouldn't say an indictment, but a bit of a question mark on coaching staff and prep staff being able to get these players in the right headspace to perform in their opening game.
Yeah, it's rough though. Like, I think it's particularly on some of the teams. I mean, we saw the interview that Gum did where he was like, I've had like 3 hours sleep basically per night for the last few nights.
Yeah, me too, buddy.
Yeah, like, I mean, to be fair, we're all the same. You know, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice right now, but I went to bed at 6 a.m. or 3 a.m. this morning, bro. Woke up at 6 a.m., watched the last couple of games, then did the Pickens video, then went back to sleep at 12 o'clock, and then woke up at 3:30 for this. And so I've had, like, I don't know, on and off, like maybe 5 hours sleep today. It's a bit cooked. Bleh's the same. Pilski, at least you're trying to keep a bit more of a regular schedule.
I'm just on the VOD grind, but even I'm starting to get a bit degen where I'm starting to get more interested in the games as the tournaments go deeper, right? I wouldn't say I'm not interested in the games previously, but like, I'm more so interested in the results, and then if a result stands out to me, I go back and rewatch it. Otherwise, I just kind of skim the results because I'm trying to keep up with 2 S-tier tournaments simultaneously. But now that we're starting to get into like the pointy end of both of these tournaments, I'm starting to get pretty degen.
Well, luckily for you, they're going to be starting at a decent time for us. I think these games like 9:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m., 5 a.m. and so like there's like 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. basically they're starting, which is not
good
too
for
bad.
me, buddy.
That's not good for Bleh. Man. But Bleh, that time zone that you're about to shift into is the time zone that I've been on for the entire fucking major, because the entire major's been starting at 1 a.m. for me for the last 2
3 weeks. Here's the thing, like it's been starting like 8:30 for me, so at least the first half I can watch, right? And if the games are pretty good, I can like push it like 4, maybe 5, and I've been pushing it pretty late, but this is like I'm cooked. But hey, you know what? We've got some good teams. I'm ready for it. Fuck it, we ball.
All I'm saying is just give us some more Shanghai majors, please.
Also, by the way, just look at the fucking name of the fucking podcast, guys. We're used to this.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Tell you what, on topic of teams that maybe didn't struggle, or a team that didn't struggle with the whole BO1s, preparation, teams coming in and beating favorites.
Donkboards.
Yeah, Team Spirit just fucking kind of rolled through 3-0, didn't really have too many problems. To be fair, the opponents that they ended up drawing were not like the biggest names necessarily, although Pain did do pretty well in the end. They did actually qualify through to the playoffs. We'll talk about that in a bit. But they beat them in a BO1. They beat Lynn Vision in a BO1 on Dust 2, and then Na'Vi 2-0. I think Na'Vi, of the teams that you could have drawn in a 2-0, look, maybe it wasn't the easiest necessarily, but it was definitely not one that felt particularly threatening at any point for Team Spirit, although that first map was somewhat closer. I didn't really feel like there was ever a point where it felt like Spirit was really in any trouble, actually, in this group stage, which I don't know if that's necessarily because Spirit was just really good. The game against Lynn Vision in particular, it felt like Lynn Vision just was not in that contest at all. Like, they were just completely outclassed, apart from maybe like 4 or 5 rounds in that first half, but then as soon as the second half came through, they just got absolutely steamrolled. So was Team Spirit just good? Did they play kind of average teams? I guess the answer, I suppose, will really come when we get into playoffs. We get to play out those best of threes, because right now, I mean, great start for Spirit, but again, it's that same, okay, well, they didn't really play that many games. Are they going to have that same match fitness? And it's a fairly pertinent point as well, particularly because they're going to be playing Mongolz in that opening game. And you look at the run that Mongolz had, where they were tested. They played VP, which was a decent team in stage 2, got almost all the way in stage 3. They played Faze, they played Liquid, who, look, again, didn't do too well for themselves, but pushed them in that series. It looked like Liquid might even win that series. Then they play Aurora, then they play Legacy. Like, Legacy's in great form. Aurora's a pretty solid team as well, even if they didn't make it. Like, Mongolz got fucking tested, bro. And Team Spirit is just sitting there like, yeah, we're fine, chilling, 3-0. So what's your guys' take on Team Spirit?
I would just say, like, yeah, I expected them to do it pretty cleanly. I think the best of 1 draws were like the dangerous one, where, like, we'll talk about it later, but I think like Lynn Vision, I saw them get Dust 2 so many fucking times this major, and like they didn't even necessarily have that good of a strike rate on it against like some, like, not even the best teams. Like they were like 5-3 overall, and they didn't even play that many like S tier teams. So I was like rubbing my hands together. I'm like, yeah, best of 1 on Dust 2, let's go. But it didn't really end up eventuating, and then they end up beating Na'Vi pretty cleanly, except for that Anubis game. So I think they're just beating the teams in front of them, and they didn't really need to get tested too much to advance to that next stage, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's the usual, like, Donk just being fucking Donk as well. You can't discount it, right? If you look at his rating, it's fucking ridiculous considering they only played like the 3-4 games they did. But yeah, I think surviving the best of 1s is what they needed. I think, a Na'Vi closed map, I think was in train, but that's about it. The Spirit just got things done. Also feel like it is a matchup a little bit. I feel Lynn Vision and Pain really weren't really switched on. I feel like in those 2 games I saw from them, like Spirit just running away with it. But they got a job done for me.
Yep.
I will say, like, I don't know where I play Spirit right now, right? Like, I think they would be the one contender to, take down Vitality, basically. But I just haven't seen enough so far. And what I saw in Astana, which was the last event they played, the one event they won over there, again, right? Sure, they beat Furia and I forgot who else they played against, but like, and was it Mouse, if I'm not mistaken? Whatever. They look okay. That's the thing, but they're not like this team coming in, rocking in, looking like the defending champions. You know what I mean? They're not the ones coming in. I'm like, yeah, these are the guys who are going to take on Vitality. That was supposed to be fucking, the Falcons, by the way. We're not here right now, but at least from what they've needed to do, it's a good sign. But that's all I have to say about that.
The thing is, they haven't even really been rewarded for that 3-0, and we'll talk about. I'm sure we'll talk about playoffs.
We'll talk about later,
in another video or like later on. But like they've 3-0'd, and the bracket that they've been given for 3-0 is so fucking good.
So crazy, dude.
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe we'll touch on it very, very quickly in this video. But for those of you that do want to hear our thoughts on the playoffs and our preview for that, that's going to be over on SkinClub. So that video will be coming out on, I think, the 18th, so probably about a couple days from the time that this video airs. So you can go and check that one out on the SkinClub community YouTube channel. And that's where we will do a little bit more of like a serious bit more of a longer breakdown of the playoffs. Here we'll probably just quickly touch on it. Maybe get the old "Hey, can the Mongolz win the major?" conversation out of the way. But moving on from that, look, Furia as well, 3-0. I actually kind of put some respect on their name after this. Like, they kind of look fucking legit. You look at the teams that Spirit had to go through, and you think, that was okay, but nothing too outrageous necessarily. But Furia, I thought going through Mongolz, Aurora, and VP was actually a little bit almost more legit than Team Spirit, even though they didn't actually end up having to beat a playoffs team in a BO3, in that Aurora and VP did not make to the playoffs. Navi did, but they did obviously beat Mongolz there in the BO1. Very, very close BO1, by the way. Not super surprised to see Mongolz dropping that one at all, to be honest. But Furia looking pretty good, even though they've got this weird, goofy roster.
100%. Like, this is not. There's a few examples in Valorant as well, but this is not the only example of rosters that I looked at the choices that they made and the decisions that they made, and I was very skeptical. I didn't think that this would be a good mix of nationalities, of having a Brazilian core and some international players. And you saw some of the interviews and stuff like that around the team of we don't think that picking up Brazilian players is going to lead to us being able to win anything. So I thought that the changes that they made were pretty questionable, or big question marks. But the fact that they've performed this well, and they really kind of stomped VP to be able to go 3-0, is pretty interesting to me. I haven't been able to catch that many of their games, but even just glancing over the results, that kind of thing, and looking at the draw that they have going into this bracket actually does make me more interested in catching some of the Furia games.
I've actually had the opportunity to watch them in Astana, right? And the biggest surprise for me, I agree with you, Molodai coming in, Yakinder back was great, but for me, the English language shift for the rest of the Brazilians was a big freaking surprise for me. Also, Fallen picking up a rifle. We've seen how that's gone for a lot of IGLs out there. The Opera IGL switching to rifles. Cadian, how that's panned out. Hasn't really been good. But what I saw in Astana, which I'm really glad to see them extend that, was all the individuals look so rejuvenated, right? Obviously, with the Opera Molodai, he's a young kid. He's just trying to figure shit out. But I saw him in the arena. He didn't shit the bed. He looked pretty good. He's got despite a short period of time he's been on this team, he's got a lot of serious reps in arenas against solid teams, which is already a really good sign for this team, because they're going to be playing in the playoffs. Yeah. For me, the biggest revelation has been Fallen, with the rifle just being so fucking sick. He doesn't need the AWP. He's fragging out. And he doesn't need to get a 1.2 rating. You have fucking Yuri, K. Serrato, and Yakinder on your team. You don't need a pop-off, but he's still very, very solid. The calling has been very, very great, by the way. Everyone seems to be surprising on the same page, despite, the language, I wouldn't say barrier, but, just learning to communicate in English, especially in Counter-Strike terms. Yeah. But Yakinder's fucking, his renaissance, basically, dude. It's crazy to me Yakinder's found that in a team like this, which is, again, like you said, Pilski, doesn't make any sense. But from what I've seen so far, I like what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think
team play, proper CS.
For those though that don't know, I mean, the thing is, Fallen's come up in the scene is getting towards the about 10 years ago. In terms of CS:GO, before that he was a 1.6 player in Brazil as well. But if you know about his career, then it does make some sense, because you've had multiple iterations of his rosters where they brought in North American players. They've switched to communicating in English. He's had some mix of Brazilian and international players. So if there's anyone that has experience in that kind of thing and can try to make that kind of thing work in the past, then, Fallen is a good candidate. And obviously at times has been considered one of the best in-game leaders in CS. So it's really good to see him be able to pick up some international players and actually make it work, because I mean, I don't remember the exact results, but I don't remember the Stewie Tarek era of MIBR being some kind of team that had some insane results or anything. I think they were massive signings, especially in terms of social impact, or whatever the fucking kids say, cultural impact at the time. And
social impact. That's that, yeah.
And it didn't end up going too well. So it's interesting to see them maybe not double down on that approach in terms of not picking up popular players, but instead picking up someone who might have been on a downward trend in his career, and then picking up a relatively unknown rookie, and scouting talent in that regard. Fucking credit where credit's due. being able to turn around your results in that regard is like very, very impressive. And it's one of the things that's incredibly difficult to do. It's right up there with like turning around like a core that's kind of on the downward trend, which is something I'm seeing a little bit in Valorant at the moment, where there's like teams that are like cursed to very, very bad results for a long period of time, and they turn around their form. Like, holy fuck, I thought this team was dead. And they're doing some good results. So I think, finding those pickups is right up there with that, because it's very, very hard in TAC FPS when a team is unsuccessful to turn it around to something that does very well at these big pressure tournaments.
I mean, Furia is one of those teams, and I think the actually probably across the board, all of the South American representatives can kind of go and say, we've actually done really well at this major. Like, just generally speaking, that region has actually kind of clapped cheeks.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Furia make it through to the playoffs. Obviously, with a 3-0 fashion, we can tie that into Pain and Legacy. Pain also making it to the playoffs, however, only just. They almost lost that game against VP after having the 10-2 start on Dust 2 in the deciding map. But they make it through, which I don't think many people necessarily expected either. And then even Legacy making it all the way to stage 3. Like, all three of those teams can go walking away from this major, the exception maybe being MIBR, and say, we've probably gone above and beyond expectations, and there's still an opportunity to potentially go even further. In fact, one of those South American teams will be making it into the top 4 because Furia and Pain are playing against each other in a quarterfinal. So overall, that region, just generally speaking, if you guys want to quickly talk about Pain and Legacy, I don't think there's too much necessarily more to say about those two teams. But I mean, in particular, I just want to give a big shout out, I think, to Legacy for being the team that wasn't even fucking supposed to be here, mate. And then they're in a position, let's be real, where they may have even managed to make it through to the playoffs themselves. They go down 2-1. Had it not been for a rough draw, I feel like going up against Mongolz in that 2-2 game is like an absolutely insane, like hard mode difficulty kind of a run. You know, you look at the other teams that they could have potentially drawn, like, okay, Mongolz would have been tough as well. Pain, Legacy, Pain, VP, G2, like, I think anyone apart from Mongolz would have been an easier discussion, exception maybe being Mongolz potentially. But Legacy getting that far, it's an extremely positive result, extremely amazing result really for that region. And Pain being able to make it through is a big dub as well. So I think across the board, South America take a bow for this major.
Oh, for sure. I think this has been the best South American performance overall ever, right? In a major, if you really think about it, like considering how deep the runs have been. I mean, Pain has looked good. They made it to the fucking the playoffs. Furia, we've already spoken about them. But the Legacy story cannot be discounted. Breaking Vitality streak, a close loss against VP. I think it was a 13-11 game against VP, mind you. Against Faze, fair enough. That was a little bit more lopsided affair. And then taking on Lynn Vision after losing map 1 and just destroying Lynn on map 2, map number 3. And then, of course, against Mouse. I was watching the game, bro. There were moments where we could just stolen the freaking game away. I think in map number 2, I think it was Inferno, where they definitely had it in the bag. And then they did a classic thing of, guys, we've actually went through stage 1, 2, and 3. Just a couple of rounds away from making the playoffs, and they played a little too scared, man. And that's when Mouse ran away with it. But super proud of what they've done. I made a tweet about this as well. I'm very, very proud of what they pulled off. But also, I want to see how they sustain this. Can they manage to replicate this down the line, next season, come a couple of months? Because now, obviously the VRS point is going to be way through the fucking roof for this team. They're going to invite a few more events as well. I want to see if they're able to sustain it. I like to think it wasn't a fluke, because looking at the way they played CS, like you could see like they put in so much work. They're super inspired. But can they sustain that? We don't know yet, but I'm hoping they can.
Yeah, I think I don't have that much to say on it because I didn't catch that many of the South America games, but I think that there's definitely something to be said about like making the most of an opportunity. There is so much like complacency in esports where you get these like replacement teams and they're just like, yeah, we got our stickers, and then they like flop. They don't like necessarily perform that well, whether that be for a lack of trying or like maybe not necessarily believing, but the fact that they've been able to come in as a last minute replacement team and do this well is amazing. And not being able to play such a gimmicky style and putting the effort in is something that you like to see. I would also say like it's really interesting to see how like diverse the like teams are in the scene. Like some of the most excited I've been for CS is when you don't have like this European dominance and you have different regions that are doing well. And obviously we're a podcast from like smallest region, but if you have fucking Asia, South America, Europe, you have teams from all different regions that can kind of represent and do well for themselves, then you have a very exciting team, exciting scene rather. And then, you know, I'm hoping that Complexity just having like a stand-in at this event was kind of like a blip in the radar, and they can continue some good form as well. And then you have some good North American representation as well.
Yeah, notable omission, obviously, being North America there, unfortunately, but it is what it is. At least they have one player.
At least it wasn't in North America, right?
I know. But hey, they've still got Faze.
At least a liege, right? Like that's it. But mate, has to be one of the bottom for NA.
100%. But we can't talk shit because Shanghai was not great for Chinese teams. I mean, we had Mongolz at least. Tyler didn't even fucking make it to Shanghai.
But that's the thing, right? I could have said like, Furia Liquid's there, even if it's two Canadians, not like Americans. But you don't even fucking have Liquid. It's only fucking a liege. So I think you can work with this, bro.
I think FaZe is going to be a massive home crowd favorite, and not just for the reason that they've got a leash, but also because
it's fucking FaZe.
People seem to have this like insane belief. Maybe do I say belief? Do I say hopium here for FaZe going into playoffs? Obviously, I think
didn't me and player like put FaZe like top 4 or something in the
maybe. I think no, they were definitely through to playoffs. I don't think we've quite had them top 4 because obviously we had Falcons in top 4. Now the game kind of changes with Falcons gone, and also FaZe on the other side of the bracket to the big names. But obviously, you know, that's a conversation for us on the next video. But my main point here is that like FaZe, I think people are really getting behind FaZe. And we may have a slightly biased view in the other direction because they're playing against the Mongolz. But looking at the results that they had in this stage, like you have to say, I mean, they had a pretty seriously legit run here in stage 3. They lost to Aurora in a BO1, whatever. But going through Mao's going through, again, a decent legacy, and even then beating Mongolz 2-0. I think that's where this starts to properly get legit for me, is when FaZe is able to beat Mongolz 2-0. And we can talk about the fact that Mongolz sort of capitulate in that game as well after losing a 4v2. Classic fucking Mongolz, by the way. But just on the focus on the FaZe side of things, you have to say, like, that was a super legit kind of a run from FaZe here, and it does make you start to believe that they could be a team that may even make it through to the final, depending on, you know, how their run goes in the playoffs. But looking at their position in that bracket, you'd think this is actually quite possible, and particularly if they've got individuals that are going to be starting to come online at the right time, which, you know, the more match fitness they get, having now played a second stage, it's going to really benefit them. So I think FaZe is very well positioned to do well here in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, their first round draw is going to be against the Mongolz, who they beat to be able to advance. One of those maps, very, very one-sided in that regard. And just like the experience of the players, now you're going into the arena and it's like big game shit. They're going to be playing fucking Mongolz, who are used to being like, surely the NA crowd's supporting FaZe. Like, we thought Mongolz was going to get an NA buff. I think they've got the worst matchup to get the crowd buff. They're fucked, mate.
It's like, hey, by the way, guys, we needed to win a matchup against a good team in an arena, and guess who they go up against? They go up against the final boss of major playoffs, right? I don't give a shit how bad FaZe has been throughout the entire season or the year. Once they get to a playoffs in a major, it's a whole fucking different ball game. No one wants to play them. You know, we were talking about how, look at the other side of the brackets, Vitality, Spirit, Mouse, and how fucking stacked that is. I guarantee you, they're like, this is fine. We know how to play FaZe. We just know how to fucking play FaZe. We don't play fucking Carrigan going wee woo wee on a fucking stage. We don't fucking go up against Simple, by the way, top 5 rated player in the tournament, coming in out of the cold, you know, wherever the fuck he was. He comes in and says, all right, fuck it. I'm going to play CS. Look at the first couple of games. Kind of human, kind of mortal against fucking Mongolz, bro. The shit he was doing with the AWP. I'm like, yeah. Like, he's fucking back. Like, that absolute no bullshit disrespect style of CS. It fits perfectly with what FaZe do, especially in the arena. So yeah, for Mongolz, you know what? If they get this win, it's going to be such a fucking massive, like an ostrich feather in their cap. But boy, you're going up against fucking like the final boss of arena games. So I think good luck, guys. I'm sorry, just good luck. That's it.
100%. They have the easier side of the bracket in theory, but I think this is a very, very bad quarterfinal matchup for them. even if they advance, I'd assume they're probably
Bro,
going to play Furia.
If they play Furia, I'd be okay with that.
I think Furia is doable for sure, but again, it's the Furia in a semi. But I don't know. I think Furia might have as much choke potential as Mongolz does. I mean, I don't know.
Furia's gonna play Pain though, right?
Yeah.
And I think Furia should have that game. I think Pain. I mean, happy to be there in the fucking playoffs, but they're not gonna make it through Furia.
Yeah. Well, is there another team that like their crowd would cheer against Mongolz except for Faze? I don't even think there is.
No,
definitely not. Mouse doesn't have the aura. Spirit doesn't.
So it's two teams who are going to be the crowd favorites going up against each other in a
grand final and the quarterfinal, as far as I'm concerned. Look, I guess let's touch on Mongolz run here since we're touching on them as a quick topic here. Overall, I don't know. Like, do you guys come away with it a little bit like it's kind of the same as like Tyloo in the previous stage where I'm like, even though they made it, I'm a little bit disappointed in the way that they made it. They lose a BO1 against Furia. It was very, very close. 13-11 though on Inferno. The entire storyline of this like stage could have been different had they actually managed to close that map out. You beat Liquid, you beat Lynn Vision. These are kind of like meh results, particularly because Liquid didn't look super fantastic in this stage at all. Lynn Vision, domestic rival. You just closely outclass Lynn Vision there on Nuke. The most obviously particularly egregious one being the loss to Phase 0 and 2 with the mental boom of losing that round on Ancient and then going to the second map and just getting absolutely plastered. But even then, in this game against G2, there's the Senzu record. It was like 56 kills or something like that, I think, in a single map. So that's the highest amount of kills in a single map at a major, which is kind of like respect, bro.
He's not beating the allegations, by the way. He's not.
No.
Group stage merchant. But one thing that I will say that is positive here for the Mongolz is that they were very tested in that game against G2. They had at one point, I think they were down 3 map points. Like G2 got it up 3-0, or at least it was 2 at one point in some of those OTs, and they were able to pull that back. And eventually they were able to get it over the line. So there is like some element of like that mental fortitude, like kind of starting to come through in some of these high pressure games. But then in others, it just completely goes missing. And I think this kind of ties into the conversation that we've seen happen around the Mongolz quite a bit previously, where I think maybe it was even you saying this, Bleh, where you spoke to someone in the organization. They said they have too much respect for the big names. And that is a huge problem against Faze because like you have the biggest names on
all
Faze.
The big names. All the big names.
You lose that round to them, and then you just literally like that is the point where they lose the series. Like they lose that one round, can't get it together for the rest of the map on Ancient, then get absolutely fucking owned for map 2 as well. Like it's not even a contest, and that's it. You're just out of the map. You can see just straight away. You're out of the series. But against a team like G2 who maybe don't have those kinds of names, like this team's like this mental fortitude, like they can grind it out, like that's kind of sick, Senzu drops 56 kills, whatever. Techno was completely missing, but he had like a big round in OT where he got 2 entries on B, like this kind of thing. Blitz, I think apparently ended up with a higher ADR, by the way, than Senzu did, so that's kind of crazy as well, which is good. It's good to see kind of like Blitz having a bit of a renaissance in a way, like in a high pressure game, which is a big problem, like a big highlight that we had, I think even was it in the last episode, Bleh, we were talking about it? I don't remember when we talked about it, but we were sort of saying, what's happening with Blitz at the moment. But, there's positives and negatives definitely to take away here for the Mongolz. But just as far as a stage 3 run is concerned, this is obviously not nearly as convincing as what they did in Shanghai, where they went 3-0. Again, though, is that maybe a little bit better going into these playoffs now that they've been a little bit more tested and they've got a little bit more match fitness coming into this game?
I don't think it matters. And I'll tell you why. Because I had my reservations for Mongolz coming in. I was like, are they going to start a little slow, right? They're going to have the ring rust like a lot of other teams did. And they kind of did, right? Like they look a little sloppy here and there. The first win was like, they lost to Furia. They're able to recover. It's the usual. Like this is parcours for the Mongolz. That's what we expect them to do. But again, that Faze game in particular is so egregious to me because that 4v2 should have been completely unlosable. I know Steel was tilting off he's tilted off the face of the planet watching the game.
And it's true, by the way.
And I agree. It's a 4v2. The decision making from them, and here's the thing. I think it was like a Senzu with the AWP there, getting down to big box. Why?
Yep.
Right? Why? Like, by the way, if it's a 2v2, if it's like a 3v4, a disadvantage for you guys, that's when you go for the aggro plays. That's when you try and wrest some control back by going for a high risk maneuver or like a calculated risk or whatever. Why are you going to go for that? Fine, he dies 9-10. One of the most reliable players on that team. Instead of just holding a safe angle from Donut, he just stands in the middle, trying to hold it off. Yep. Why? Just keep Donut control. These are like basic fundamentals, right? And the fact that they do that and they lost map before because of that, and then mental, just like, the mentality just fucking broke after that, got destroyed in Anubis. It's the same thing again and again and again. Have they done? I mean, good job. They pulled it off. They made it to the playoffs. Great job. We expect them to do this. And once again, they maintain an extra spot for Asia CS, etc., etc., etc. We'll sing their praises later on. But the same issues we saw from them earlier when it comes to their, just being a little sloppy at times and their mentality just going out the window. Because on the news, when they're getting battered, by the way, again, they just seem completely lost. They don't know what to do. They're not able to come back into the map, right? They're not even making it competitive. And this is a map they've been playing quite a bit as well. Like, it's a map they're okay playing against like top 4 or 5 teams and still struggle on this particular instance. I didn't have an answer for Faze, which is, again, now I'm like, all right, now I'm going to be in an arena where we know you historically struggle. Now you're going to be going up, against teams like a Faze, maybe against Furia, maybe against, Vitality and all these guys later on. And then, again, are you going to be relying on Senzu, who has struggled, again, historically as well? So all the issues that we've had with the Mongolz, it's still present. It's just that they operate at a pretty fucking good level, which is why they managed to scrape their way through. So, again, happy for them, but do I have any expectations that they're making to, for example, the final, despite the bracket they have? Not really, dude.
I think
and I'm a big fan.
No, I mean, look, I put them through in my pick'ems to the final, but
sure,
in terms of because look, this is the best chance they're going to have to make a final of a major. Like, this is way better than what it was last.
My brother in Christ, PGL Bucharest, they were favorites to fucking win that.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So many events, right? And what have they done? They fucking shit the bed every fucking time.
Every time you look at the bracket and you go, great, this is Mongol's time to make it to a final, to win a final. Those PGL events in particular are the egregious outlet. That's the big talking point.
The top 3 teams were in there.
Yeah,
these like freebies for you, right?
It's the same here, and I'm like, on paper, they are the best team on that side of the bracket. Like, Faze,
yes,
they can do what they can do. We all know that.
Yeah.
But Mongolz is the, they're the team that has the core 5 that's been together for 2 years. They've been top 5 in the world for the entire year, for probably the last 6 months. They should make it out of that bracket. Like, if that's another top 5 team, if that's, I mean, look, let's just say, like, if it's Mao's on that side of the bracket, or if it's Spirit on that side of the bracket, or if it's Vitality on that side of the bracket, no one's going to be saying, yeah, there's a very real chance that they lose to Faze, for example. I mean, there's always a chance. But I think it's a higher chance against Mongolz because of their track record as the favorite in these PGL events, just being so abysmal that I have to say, at one point, it's got to fucking work. Like, it's got to, at some point, finally click for Mongolz in one of these playoffs, and they, will go far. And it could be here, but
I would say this, right? Because the moment they broke kind of the barrier of making it like to the playoffs of an S-tier event, SS, like proper S-tier event, was Shanghai. Right? That's when it started going on this run of all the playoffs and everything. So it seems like seemingly every few months, every 6 months, they seem to like crack the next level. And then it stagnated a little bit. They have stagnated this season, made a lot of playoff runs, struggled in events like, the PGL events, for example, like Cluj and Bucharest. Maybe this is the event where they make it to a fucking semifinals of a fucking major. Maybe.
I mean, it was a super winnable game against Faze. Like, the fact that they should have won Ancient. Like, it was their map to lose.
100%.
And then it's a completely different series at that point. So
now imagine now that's going to be with like 15,000 people in the arena cheering for a Liege against you. You know what I mean? It's harder. And you couldn't even do it in the group stage. So as much as I want him to make a deep run, I don't know, man. I just don't know. Yeah.
Any thoughts on Mongolz, Pilski? Or should we move on?
No, I'm just going to say all of the same stuff. Yeah. I think that, 100%. I think if they beat Faze, they'll probably be in the final. But I don't see them beating Faze. And I'm like, this is classic Mongolz hate from me. But yeah, I just think... I just think Faze like is that team where I look at their I'm more looking at Faze, to be honest, to go on a run here than I'm looking at Mongolz.
Yeah, it's about aura, I guess, and Faze definitely have that aura.
That's why we love the fucking majors, cunt.
Like I keep saying, like it's just so within the grasp of Mongolz. And what just quickly to tie it up, on the one point of like, you know, we're talking about that 4v2 round and the bad decision making from Senzu and even from 910. Like, I 100% I agree. I watched that round. You know, Steele tweeted it as well, and it was like, this is the example of bad fundamentals that he was talking about. I was like, 100%, you're on the money there. But these things just are such simple fixes. They are just so easy. Like, it's just so easy for Senzu in that moment to make a different decision. And even if Senzu goes down, for 910 to make a different decision there. You know what I mean? So it's not as if these are like fundamental, we need a different player, we need to change the roster up, we need to do this, we need to change roles, we need to do that. It's like, just in these minor moments, you need to just make the slightly higher percentage play decision, and you will win these games. So it's not as if it's difficult for Mongolz to do that, although apparently it is. But like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's well within their grasp to be able to do that. So we'll see if they can manage to make it happen here on the playoffs. Can they? Yes, absolutely. Will they? We'll have to wait and see. But anyway,
although I do want to add in one more thing. Like, I think Techno's been struggling quite too much right now at this point, bro.
Yeah,
like
he's
he had some huge rounds here and there, but like, I know how good he could be, but he's, dare I say, he's been a bit of a liability now. And I'm giving him a lot of space.
Numbers, bro. You can't be putting up the same numbers as
exactly.
Kerrigan.
You have people like double your age, like, you know, literally unks who are playing hard roles, by the way. You know, they're going in like blind entry, just trying to set up the team. And if they're putting up better numbers than you are, like, Techno, buddy, like, tighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think that's fair, and it's definitely valid. But at the end of the day, you know, I think he's had enough tenure in this roster to give himself a bit of time. You know what I mean? Like, if he doesn't perform,
as long as they're winning, I'm fine with that.
It's the same thing as Inns in FlyQuest. It's like, you can have 6 months of bad form, and I'm not kicking you from the team. Like, you're like the GOAT. You know what I mean? Like,
I disagree there. You know what? It's fucking Inns, bro. Like, it's Inns, right? But if I'm looking at Mongolz team, and we've had a discussion, bro. If they're gonna not win or make it to the finals of a single S tier event this entire year, for example, at some point you need to make a change.
I can't believe it. No. I can understand where you're coming from, but I can't believe we're having a conversation about potentially removing Techno, one of the two players that literally hard carried the Mongolian and Asian CS region to
the biggest fucking defender of
top
them,
8 at back-to-back majors.
I have defended Techno against everyone, buddy, everyone. But the thing is, at some point, if they don't win an event, I mean, I'm sure they want to win events, right? Not just making plays all the time, right? I'm looking for excellence, and this is a team. I look at the individuals there. I'm like, yeah, I mean, at some point, if you have to make a change who would you pick?
Okay,
you know
if we have to make a change, but I guess that do we have to make a change is another conversation point.
If they don't win an S-tier event in the next 1 year, or like in the year, like,
I
think so.
When have Mongolz been the team that's like stagnant with the roster? Like, the whole thing that impressed me about them is like they are fucking cutthroat, but like now, they are very stagnant with their roster. So
they might actually make a change.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And to be honest, the thing I almost kind of expect them to be the team that removes the player you're not expecting, you know, and then like it works.
All right, Mazzino, 910, goodbye.
Rest in peace. Yeah, rest in peace.
Legit, you know, like they picked up Mazzino 910 out of fucking nowhere, and like I would probably name 10 Mongolian players that would replace them, you know, from fucking Eruption or fucking Chinggis Warriors or
Huns or whatever.
And
right?
they'll pick none of those cuts. They'll pick some random cut from Faze.
Someone you've never heard of. Yeah. Look,
his old mate's second cousin.
Hey, Mazzino, you're around. Your younger brother's coming in, right? Like 12-year-old sick cunt, you know?
Mara's illegitimate son or something like that. He's turned 16, finally, like, getting the roster, boy. Anyway, look, enough about Mongolz. Look, I hope. I'm worried about Mongolz. I'm wearing the Mongolz shirt today. I do hope they can make it. Like, this would be another like massive step up for them if they could even just make top 4. If they make top 4 and just like fall apart against Furia,
if you beat Faze, like playoffs Faze, bro, you're already like you won in my books.
It will be a spectacle, and it will create a lot of hype for them if they do it in a good fashion. I'm my Asia CS hater. I don't want them to win. I want Faze to be deeper at the major. That makes for a better major, guys.
I think you are a hater. By the way, There was
That
someone.
makes for a more hype major for viewers. No,
There
am I
was-
crazy?
You
Not
know
for
what?
our viewers, but
I agree, Pilski. I want to see. I tweeted this out as well, bro. Come on, man. As a Counter-Strike lover, you cannot say Faze playing with Simple. Imagine this, right? Imagine this.
No, I get that.
Faze,
but-
Vitality, Zyru versus Simple. You know what I mean? Reps versus X. Come on, bro.
100%. And that is the bracket that's being set up right now. That
know.
is what you are fucking lying to yourself. Even if you are a diehard Mongolz supporter, that you're going to be like, no, Mongolz lost, and now I'm going to get a Faze Vitality final. Like, oh, my life sucks, bro. Like, why do I have to watch this?
Also, let's be real, right? If Mongols make it to the playoffs and they go up against, should be Vitality. Let's be real, the odds are going to be so one-sided there.
Of course.
Yeah, Vitality should heavily be the favorite. But if it's a fucking Faze game, right? Like, all bets are fucking off. So
It's the same
call me
thing in-
biased, man. I like
It's the same
a
thing in
Faze fucking
Valorant.
game.
There are so many. There are teams that they are so horseshit, and if they would just be good, it would make the league amazing, or it would make the tournament amazing. And they're you need to understand sometimes where people get so hype about upsets. And I love an upset as well. But every time an upset happens, and then I look at the bracket that's going to get set up after that, I'm like, oh, this tournament's going to be sleeper in the top 8.
I have a quick question for you. How's Paper X doing in Masters?
They are very good actually, and I've kind of been a PRX hater as well. PRX are kind of like my Valorant Mongols.
Yeah,
a little
fuck
bit.
me,
I
Patty.
always predict against them.
That's what I reckon too.
Bring back
CS.
Because I saw him on my Instagram feed today. So there's this guy, right? So in for those of you who don't know, in Hindu culture, the Ganges is like a super holy river and everything. A lot of people go there to dip themselves, to absolve themselves of sin, or just for good luck or whatever, right? And of course, they're fucking polluted as shit right now because people are idiots. This is one guy who people pay money to, and he takes a photograph of people who couldn't make it to the Ganges, and he's like, all right, this one's for Rajiv. I'm dipping it in, and he dips it live on camera in the fucking water. And you know what? Money. Entrepreneur, he's making money out of it. Out of nowhere on my feed, I see this guy today. He's like, "This is for Valorant Masters esports team Paper X," and he's talking for real, bro. I shit you not, it's for real. It's not a meme. That's my Pilski right there.
This is for Paper X, and thank you for the donation, Nick Athy. Appreciate that, mate. $2,000.
I will, if that works for Paper X, I will put money for the Mongolz.
Next major. Yep.
I mean, Paper X is that team that their roster was super stagnant, and they were having their worst results ever, and they have now become a team that could potentially win an international event. And fucking bad respect. They've done so well turning that curse around.
It's a dip, that's why. All right, cool. I got it.
All right, we got to move on. We're 47 minutes in here.
Blair, please find that and send that to me.
I want to say though, before we move on from Mongolz/Faze, very quickly, I need to find 2 new co-hosts for this fucking podcast. So if anyone's actually a proper Asia CS fan, not a hater, please send me a DM or reply in the YouTube comments. Also, there was a guy on the last episode that was like, "Oh, of course Pilski wouldn't turn up after hating on Lynn Vision," and then they just go absolutely ballistic in stage 2. It's like, yep, classic.
Bro, fucking go look at Lynn Vision results. Sit through all of the challenger games that I've had to watch of Lynn Vision being the most fucking stupid ass team, and then tell me that they
tell me you expected Amelia to be their best player after having literally dropped 0.8 internationally.
Live tournament from Amelia. Even called me Sue, bro. He was so ass when they're playing in China, and all of a sudden they're the 2 best players. How does this make sense? How is out fragging Starry?
Yep.
Crazy shit.
Look, I don't want to touch too much longer on any of these teams that didn't make it through, but I guess just to very quickly sort of tie up a couple of loose ends here. Obviously, Lynn Vision, they didn't make it, but end of the day, similar conversation around them to the run we had for Legacy. Good fucking shout, boys. Honestly, almost were able to beat... I say almost able to beat Legacy. They kind of got blasted on 2 maps, so...
They got wrecked.
Maybe not, but they looked really good on map 1. I was a believer at one point there, but overall, have to say very, very pleased with what Lynn Vision have been able to do.
Probably one of the best Dust 2 teams in the world right now. It's crazy.
They're always so good at Dust 2.
So good at this map,
these
bro.
fucking teams letting them play. It just proves that teams don't think they're good. That's what I honestly think. I honestly think teams do not rate Lynn Vision. Otherwise, there's no fucking way they should let Dust 2 through. At the same time, though,
They're
Like I
actually
said,
so good.
they played it 8 times. They only went 5-3, and some of those games were very tight against.
They lost one to fucking
NRG,
Spirit,
bro.
mate. They lost the game to Spirit.
I know they lost the
Can-
game.
that cancels it out.
But look at the rest of the fucking results. Like even their best map, like Dust 2, I think is their best map, and they have like kind of mediocre results against like teams that are not even like S tier teams. Like, am I a fucking hater? Yeah, I think they're sick.
No.
Do you?
I think Lynn Vision come up with sick.
No, here's the thing. You're not a hater. Asian CS just better than everyone else. Boom.
Do you think they're sick, or do they make
It's better?
you
It's just better, bro.
I don't know, man.
Fucking dog evil with dog on fucking Aurora right now. Let's tell you that, you know.
Yeah, maybe.
Shout out dog evil.
Yeah,
I fucking love these teams, guys. But like, fucking hell, you know, if they are shit, I just call it how I see it. And
here's the funny thing about all the people in the YouTube video replying in the fucking comments and everything. Not everyone, but a lot of these people. Listen, you guys came in when these guys started doing good.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I've been watching this shit before you guys were even a fucking twinkle in a daddy's eyes, guys. Like, I have embraced the pain for so long. It's gonna take a long time for me to like truly be like, yes, this is it.
Legit, like,
that's a joy. That's the fun about liking Asian CS. It's because we don't win all the time, and because we have all these crazy ass bullshit results, which is why we enjoy this. It's a fucking hate-love relationship. Yeah,
it's like some dominatrix shit. Like, you see fucking
100%,
Lynn Vision,
100%.
You see Lynn Vision win Dust 2, you're like, oh, you're in ecstasy, and then they get fucking slammed, like not even close.
Bro, like Tyloo over the years, Tyloo over the years has kicked my nuts so many times. But have I come a couple of times? Yes, I have. I have ejaculated a couple of times. So I'm like, fuck yeah, Tyloo, let's go. London 2018, bro, like, fuck yes, bro.
By the way, Lynn Vision did as well as Tyloo have ever done in any major ever. That's the highest rate, that's the highest
crazy,
placement from any Chinese team ever. Equal to, I believe.
And second highest placing in Asia ever.
Yeah. So
Mongolz,
respect. I want to read out this interaction in our Discord. By the way, you can join our Discord. There's a link in the description. This is perfect. This is exactly what you're talking about, Bleh. I want to give a shout out to Winnie in the Discord. It just, what you were saying there just reminded me of this. Someone said, I need some way to cope with all this trauma, and he said, nah, you just need to adapt. Getting disappointed by Asian dogshit ass CS has been my kink since 2015. That's you. And for all the Fairweather fans in the YouTube chat, you guys just need to adapt, or in the comments, I guess. Anyone else to touch on here? VP, unfortunate, missed out after having a pretty good stage 2 and a 2-0 start. They just pulled a flag quest right there. Bad luck, fellas. Don't really care, to be honest. I'm not such a big VP fan. In fact, I was actually kind of happy to see Pain through.
I think this is the death knell for this particular lineup. Like, I don't know what's going to change. I think Electronic is IGL. I won't lie, the first couple of games they played, you're like, they beat fucking Mouse. I was like, well, all right, this looks fucking good. And then you get O2'd by Vitality is fair enough, but like O2'd by Furia and losing the Pain, I think that is the, they have to kind of pull the cord here. They're like, all right, this ain't working out, right? And I think the Electronic IGLing thing is just run its course. I think it's been a while. I think it's a waste of everyone's time. And I'm saying this like nicest way possible. Electronic still has it as a player. I don't think IGLing is cut out for it. Just go back to playing like popping hits, bro. Like I think you still have it. And then look at everyone else on the team. Look at people like Icy, like Flamus and Flint and Fame. Like, this team is supposed to be making playoffs at every event they play at.
Yep.
Right. So I don't know what's going to change, but I think this is the last time we're going to see this particular 5-man lineup. That's it.
I don't understand it either. Like, he was fucking like, wasn't he in the top 10?
He was like a top 5 player
4 years in a
when
row.
he was in
3 or 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
Like, what? Why are we
Everyone thinks they can call, bro. Everyone thinks they can call. And by the way, and here's a crazy thing. I think he said in an interview or something. He's like, yeah, we need more strats. Like, you don't need more strats. I personally, like, to be a good leader, it's one thing is IGLing, the tactical side of things. The other side is like being a leader of men and just being, a good leader overall. I just think Electronic has it. I don't think he has it. Like, every time you watch them when they're not winning, like, in a close game, whatever, bro, just listening to the comps, even though I can't speak Russian, it's like, holy fuck, this is like a matchmaking lobby of pure toxicity. You know what I mean? Flamus, one of the most outgoing people we saw in the Shanghai Major, is just a broken shell of a human being. He looks like someone from like the second half of one of those Vietnam movies. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's like fucking broken, like just like mentally just just broken in half. That's what he looks like. How have you done that? Like, how have you broken a person like that? So I think that the environment just doesn't work. And maybe Ultron's going to work better than some other team. But I think the calling thing, sorry, buddy. Like, you've had literally nothing to show for it in the past 1 year. So, yeah.
All right. I guess just to wrap it up, we can go G2, Aurora, Team Liquid all together, because it kind of feels like for all three of those organizations / teams, massive disappointments. Yeah. Maybe less so in the case of G2, just because there was less expectation on them. But Aurora has been a pretty solidly top 6 team throughout the last 6 months, and going 1-3 in the major is a huge knock on their name, despite having a little bit of a, I guess, worse run of form leading into the major than what they had towards the end of, say, 2024. And then Team Liquid, like, I don't know, man. I expected better. I thought that they were kind of getting it together with Shui in the roster, but they just got fucking owned. To be fair, they had a pretty rough run. I mean, they versed the best team in the world on Dust 2 in their opening BO1 on Dust 2.
Just say Lynn Vision, bro. Just fucking say Lynn Vision. And then, best team in the world on Dust 2. Fucking asshole.
and then they beat, and then they have to go up against and beat Mongolz. Tough game, obviously. Mongolz is a good team, and then you play Mouse. So it's like, okay, outside of, let's be real, like Lynn Vision, you're probably versing 2 top 5 teams in the world right there to try and qualify through to the playoff stage.
Don't lose to Lynn Vision. Don't lose 13-5 to fucking Lynn Vision. Right? Also, by the way, they are the best NA team, technically speaking.
Yeah, but they're not the best fucking team in Asia, because all the Asian teams fucking own them.
How do you like them apples, NA?
Can I get 3 big woos from Amelia, or 4 big woos? I think he did. Woo! 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 That's what he said after Team Liquid game.
Amelia spinning on the desk when Colmsy was giving an interview has to be the moment of the major for me. Like, you guys have seen that, right? The spinning like a fucking top. I don't know what's going on in that guy's head. I fucking love it.
He's like an iPad kid, and his parents forgot to charge the iPad, and they took him out to a fine dining restaurant, and he's just like,
table and shit.
just entertaining himself. Yeah. Like, what is he up to? I don't know. Anyways, anything else you guys want to say quickly on the major before we jump into the MRQ discussion?
No, just like, Liquid, the massive disappointment. Although that being said, I don't think they're going to make any. I mean, Naf's going to leave. Naf's just. It feels so bad,
Seems
right?
Like
but
it,
Naf. Yeah, he's so done in that lineup. Maybe a different team could maybe be better for him. But apart from that, Aurora, dude, imagine missing the only playoffs this year, and it's a major. You know what I mean? I feel like we've been all talking about Aurora and Mongolz being the group stage merchants, they reach the playoffs, and they kind of shit the bed. But I feel with this major, Mongolz have ascended. I wouldn't say beyond the conversation, but you can't bring up Aurora in the same conversation as Mongolz. I feel Mongolz have definitely like cemented themselves like a top 6, top 5 team right now. And for Aurora, there was also like I mean, we also saw news. I think Emor, he got I wouldn't say arrested, but I think like there's some betting thing happening over there. And from what I remember, I think Richard said this on his on a No Majors Club I mean, not the watch party, that they were waiting for a few players to come back to Turkey. So I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not. I'm just hoping it's just more about an investigation than them being indicted for anything. But I'm sure there's also playing something in their heads. I'm quite sure about it. These guys are a bunch of very emotional people. You know how they can, get affected by a lot of things. So hopefully that's not going to play out, right? But maybe, I'm just saying, maybe that's also a reason why they struggle a little bit here.
No, I could see that 100% being something that would be
I'd be mindfuck, bro, if that was like in the back of my mind. Yeah,
it's a good point. It is a good point. Anyway, that's stage 3 of the major done and dusted. Again, if you want to hear our thoughts on the playoffs stage, there's going to be a video coming out on SkinClub in a couple of days. I'll tweet about it. Someone will tweet about it. You'll be able to find it. Anyway, let's talk MRQ before we wrap up this episode, or the lack thereof, as you guys would have seen over the last week or so. Valve just said, how we were all like, oh, well, online MRQs, they kind of suck. We don't really like those. Valve's like, well, let's just get rid of them. Fair enough. Get rid of them. MRQ's gone, and we're going to invite 32 teams directly to the Start Out Major, which is the next major. So, thoughts on that, guys? Obviously, it's I don't know. Like, I think across the board, this has been a pretty controversial topic. I think initially, the initial reaction to this was most people were like, oh, that sucks. A lot of people not happy with it. I am still kind of leaning on that that discussion personally. But then people have started to come around and go, oh, it could be good if there's a lot of caveats. There's a lot of, ifs in that conversation. So
Valve does really good with caveats. They're always on top of those.
Yeah. So that, I mean, my thoughts are like, I don't know. I'm sad to see him go in a way. Like, I wasn't happy with the implementation of the MRQs in the previous major being online. Pilski and I casted those. There was a lot of tech issues. The results were a bit wonky, up and down. But at the end of the day, I don't think we would have had the same major had we had 32 teams invited. We would have had, as I tweeted out as well, the Huns would have been there, Rare Atom would have been there, and Semperfi would have been there instead of Lynn Vision, Tyloo, and Chinggis Warriors. Now, even in the world where, okay, and that was assuming that there may not have been like regional allocations based on, the 6 slots or 5 slots that Asia has, 6 now. That was assuming that there was no regional allocations and it was just the top X teams in Asia. Those would have been the invites. However, from what I have heard recently, and there is no confirmation on this, which is also a problem. I think someone needs to come out and say there is going to be region-based allocations, or sub-region, I should say sub-region allocations. If there was sub-region allocations, it still would have been, Rare Atom, for example, and the Huns instead of Tyloo or Lynn Vision and Chinggis Warriors. So that would have been, I think, still quite disappointing in the end, because I don't think that Rare Atom would have gone on the run, for example, that Lynn Vision did, let alone what Tyloo did, personally. But at the end of the day, I have a little bit of a gripe with this, just because, and also, by the way, it would have been Semperfi instead of FlyQuest. Semperfi would have got the invite over FlyQuest. Do any of us think that that's actually legit? Look, I like Semperfi, but I don't think that they're a better team than FlyQuest. So I do have a gripe with this. It's going to be okay if there's enough VRS tournaments for teams to play in, and if they all get to play against each other. But it's not really feasible. It's not really possible for somewhere like Asia. So I much prefer the system where, at least for Asia, okay, maybe this is a different conversation internationally, in Europe particularly, but in Asia, and potentially maybe North America as well, where you have a pretty good understanding from the VRS as to where teams are sitting, but you don't know for sure that Lynn Vision is better than Tyloo until they play against each other in an MRQ, or FlyQuest over Semperfi. I think we know that one, but we don't know that Semperfi is better than FlyQuest just because they're higher in the VRS ranking on October the 7th of 2025 or whatever the invite, October the 8th, there you go. There's a world where this happens at the next major and we get some goofy R team, to use the Zoomer technology, through to the major because of some VRS ranking. 30's the new 20, mate. Get with the program. So I made that tweet and I said, I think I think I can see the positives, definitely. But I can also see the negatives. And that's not even to get into the discussion around the possibility that this system can be abused, okay? I was tweeting about it.
What are the positives for Asia, though?
Not for Asia, but just generally speaking, teams, you're promoting the fact that teams are going to have to compete in the circuit as opposed to just form for the RMR, like do a try and drillers kind of type situation, let's be real. So you're kind of killing that. You have to compete in the circuit. You have to invest into Counter-Strike to make it through to a major. So that's the positive. And the other positive is, in theory, you're going to get a better representation. You're not going to have these Gamer Legion kind of things where like a team just doesn't make it through an MRQ, even though clearly they're a better team than maybe some of the teams that ended up actually going to the major, for example. But the other thing here, and I know I've been talking about this a lot, there's a bit of a rant going on. Sorry, guys. This system can be exploited, okay? Someone gives Elfishguy $500,000 and says, let's get a couple of ANZ teams through to the major, or let's get this particular ANZ team through to the major, even if there's maybe sub-region allocations, which I believe there will be. I now run X amount of, let's say 4, 5, 6 tournaments in ANZ for specific teams. Like maybe FlyQuest has a clash. Let's just say I have an agenda against FlyQuest and I picked up a team, or I have some vested interest in a team and I want that team to go to the major instead of FlyQuest. I now specifically say, I'm going to schedule this tournament on this date, $20,000 prize pool, $50,000 prize pool, while FlyQuest is over competing in fucking, IEM Chengdu, for example. That's coming up later this year. All of a sudden, FlyQuest cannot play that tournament. My team goes and plays, gets all these points. Maybe we have to invite some Asia teams. Okay, fair enough. Oh, the flight's going to get booked in time. Fuck. We're going to have to replace them with an ANZ team. Damn it.
Yeah.
Shit. You know? Oh, it's so unfortunate that this tournament... Oh, the prize money didn't get paid out? That's okay. The VRS points are there anyway. That's all I'm saying. I think there is a world where there's some level of abuse potentially here. Maybe I have a very jaded view of the world. I wouldn't blame me, to be honest, after what's happened in my life. But... but the fact that it's possible... The fact that it's possible is really sad.
He's on fucking one right now, bro. He's on fucking one right now.
Yeah, go take a dip in the Ganji for fucking Elfishguy, bro.
Anyway,
are you okay, dog? Have you broken?
Yeah. No, it's all right. I went to the gym today. I'm feeling okay.
This system is dog shit for Asia, bro. This sucks. Like, we're trying to solve a problem that almost never happened. Like, if we're talking about like having an MRQ land qualifier, and they're like, bro, like people that spawned in 5 minutes ago, like, oh, drillers are taking our spot, bro. That almost never happened. Like, the Middle Eastern teams were always never good enough to take a spot. They usually got fucking bagged. It was always the most competitive teams that qualified through the MRQ. There's never been a fucking problem, bro. Like, there's been some fuckery. The system's not perfect, but this system is just way fucking worse. And if, like, isn't OS getting combined with Mongolia or some shit? Like,
East Asia, West Asia, and China are the three sub-regions.
No, bro. I don't even know where Asia is anymore with all of these fucking regions.
Yep.
I just feel like people just don't know how the fucking map of Asia works, honestly.
Oh, bro. Like, I think, number one, this is really bad for Oceania in particular. Like, our region is cooked. But this is just a bad system. Like, I'm sick of people providing caveats. Like, this just does not work for Asia, and I think it's going to be bad for like North America even as well. I think the regions that are less active and don't have as many tournaments running this year, this is really going to kill that. In terms of the whole argument of like X team would have been better than Y team to qualify. I think it's especially like looking at Lynn Vision's run, it's quite hard to predict like what team's going to do well. I'm not sure I necessarily would have had going into the major more faith in like Lynn Vision or Rare Atom. I would have had like more faith in Tyloo, and I think we all agreed on that. So like, I just think that the best way to qualify for a team for a major is just running a fucking LAN qualifier. And this is the way it's always been done in so many different esports right before the fucking event. And I just don't see... Like, the problem with that is money at the end of the day.
And the thing is, a lot of TOs, they don't want to spend that money. You got to remember, this comes out of the pocket.
And even when they fucking do, they, like, the MRQs have been shit because they just don't want to spend on them. Like, they fucking squeeze the schedule, they run it over other shit, or they put it out to some other TO, or this and that. Like, even in recent memory, like, it's just not a quality product. So... I don't know, man.
On a slightly related note, I mean, unrelated to this in particular, but so related to what we spoke about earlier. Just saw a tweet right now from Senzu.
Okay.
Rarely see a Senzu tweet. The Techno tweet. Yeah. Some people talking shit about Techno lately. I don't know how he's like watching this podcast or just recording it. It's not even live, but I guess he could sense it in the ether. I guess like some people talking shit about Techno lately, and I'm against it fully. It's been too much lately. He's doing everything for the team. It will do even more. If Techno wasn't here, none of us would be here. He's an amazing person. Wouldn't see us on live, by the way. I love him so much. Here's the thing.
Guard status.
All facts. All facts. I completely agree with him. Techno is, one of the heart and soul of this team alongside Blitz and Mara. He's still kind of shit the bed. To say it, bro. I know you love him a lot, but mate, you can't give a 0.8 rating in today's Counter-Strike, the modern day Counter-Strike. Also, I know how good he can be. I know how sharp this kid is, right? So it's not like he's a 35-year-old unk. I'm like, all right, kick this guy. He's washed. No, he's not washed. He still has it, but I need him to be a little bit, deliver a little bit more in the server, fragging output-wise, and I'll be a happy camper. But I have to say it, Senzu. I'm sorry, man. Like, you can't,
Look, I think just to cap off my thoughts of like this whole MRQ system, I just think this is going to be bad for the Asia scene.
Just like, straight up ignored.
Get owned. I mean, I don't know, man. I just think this sucks. And I keep hearing like people making arguments in favor of it, and I keep seeing like the results that happen after that and the bullshit that happens after that. I'm like, yeah, this just kind of sucks, man. Like, I just want LAN qualifiers and like LAN qualifiers that are run well by endemic tournament organizers that actually care about their geographic region and like are endemic to the space. But that's too much to ask for.
I'm actually okay with the MRQs being online, because let's be real, you know, the sort of level of teams going to be playing MRQs, I don't think it makes monetary sense for the TOs to host, you know, LAN events for that. But you know what I actually like, which they're not going to switch up right now, obviously. You have like a 32 team major, right? Again, we go back to the old format, like keep it 24. Make the opening stage the MRQ. Make it like a global MRQ or something like that, right? Like everyone, you know, plays against each other, so to speak, the Asians and yada yada yada, like a global RMR or whatever you want to call it, right? I think that would fix a lot of these things. But for me, I'm okay with MRQs going away as well. The VRs is fine. It's just the fact that if that goes away, we need to have more open qualifiers for the other events happening throughout the year,
Caveat.
right? We need to have caveat. There we go.
That's
so
it. You know what I mean? Like,
I really have nothing much else to add to what Pilski said, and what he said as well, Jordan. I think we're all in agreement over here. But I feel it's like every season, a decision is made: MRQ, VRS, open, whatever, and it's always the caveat. It's always, oh, okay, but we should do this, but they don't do it. So at this point, you know what? I'm kind of done. I'm kind of done bitching about it.
Fair enough.
I'm just exhausted, you know.
I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, like, whatever we say doesn't fucking matter. I'm just here to talk about it because we get paid to talk about it, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, it is what it is. You just have to get on with it. And hopefully there's going to be a few TOs that are going to step up in the interim and run a few tournaments for ANZ, obviously for Pilski and I's perspective, but just in Asia in general. You know, we obviously had ACL at the start of the year, but they're only going to be running an ACL every year, once a year.
Yeah.
It's not twice a year, for example, one each season, which is part of a problem. Although I do recall there was conversations around that. I think maybe in 2027 they may run two. We'll have to see. So there's a world where, again, all of this pans out okay, but why can't we just have both? Why can't we just have...
Why not both?
Exactly. You know, like, this was always... Everybody used to love watching the MRQs. Why not? Why not both? Why not have all these tournaments, these VRS tournaments, and then we have the major qualifier LAN for all the Asia teams? I mean, am I crazy? Maybe. It's the problem is the time, like... in the calendar, I think that's
a big problem, right? Like the fact that teams, for a lot of teams, they have to decide, because that particular week when MRQ is supposed to happen, that's the busiest week in 2025, by the way, for Counter-Strike. You have like 4 fucking big events happening, CSC and all these events. For a lot of teams, that's a great opportunity to farm VRS points when you don't have everyone competing at the same time, right? So with MRQs happening, that's taken away as well. So it's kind of like a shit situation for teams. MRQ is another event in what it's a very packed calendar. It sucks with TOs as well. Like, you know what happened to Yalla, for example, this year too, right? So there is a perfect solution. But I think the closest we can get to an ideal world right now with what Valve have done with, like I said, open quals, more open qualifiers for your Esther events.
Boom.
Yeah, I just hate open qualifiers online though. Like,
I agree, but
we've
again,
lived through this. We've lived through this for the entirety of esports, and there, like the cheating and like
but here, Pilski, at least we do have open qualifiers like other games, right? So.
I mean, we don't have teams getting dipped in the Ganges River, so who's
I need to speak to my lawyer before I can.
I'm gonna get a fire.
If I speak, I'm in big trouble. Good time to wrap the episode up, then, guys. I think we've got another one to record. Again, that'll be the SkinClub podcast for you guys about the major playoffs. That'll be coming up in a couple of days. So if you enjoyed this one and you want to hear our thoughts going further forward in the major, make sure you check that one out. And like, comment, subscribe, do those things. Buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy if you'd like to give us some of your hard-earned
make sure
money.
that you post your comment from before Lynn Vision went on a run at the major about how you predicted this, and I want to see the timestamp and the date because you guys are geniuses.
Pilski's got a bone to pick. All right, we'll catch you in the next episode. Don't know when that'll be. We'll probably do one after the major, I guess.
Post major, yeah,
post major, and then we'll go on a bit of a break, I think, for the player break. But we'll see you guys there.
Wasting time. Wasting time.
Hey guys, just at the end of that video and heading into 2025, I want to give a massive shout out to Jean, who has been a big supporter of mine on buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy. She's been a member for over 12 months. And if you'd be interested in supporting my content and getting this content grind going, then head over there as well and check it out. Thank you very much.